All right, I am here with Jennifer, and we are going to have a nice conversation today about
Woohoo!
the fun times of growing up as a male ENTP versus a female ENTP. Now, you hear such YouTubers such as like C.S. Joseph, who says it's easier for women to grow up as an ENTP than it is for men, even though women are a lot less common of this type for the most part. Though we have a good handful in the Facebook groups. They do exist. I've met them. We have one in front of me. And so there is that. While I tend to agree with C.S. Joseph on that, but we're going to let her explain herself. And if she agrees or if she doesn't agree, that I argue that an SE user is typically going to be more masculine and SI users are typically more feminine, so you're going to be able to mix and match better that way. And we'll definitely talk to more SE user females and more SI user males to see how they felt that way, because we were talking before this, and like I grew up in a very SP-centered house. My father was a roofing contractor. All my brothers were SPs. Everyone in my family was expected to be athletic. And so there was issues with that. Now, granted, I've always been athletic, but I don't like team sports. And so that's where the SE demon came in. I've always been known as a good dancer, but I can't dance with a partner.
Mhm.
And so I didn't really realize that until later on in life. And going through school, let's just start with like elementary school to begin with, and like how it was like as an ENTP. For me, elementary school was incredibly easy, but I was always put outside, because I was so hyperactive, energetic, and things like that. And my teachers loved me. They thought I was a sweetheart, and I was really nice at school. Granted, I was a Jehovah's Witness boy, and so, you're raised to be nice. And, but I did really well in school for the most part, even though I was a very sickly child. But it was always the same thing: was I finished my work first, then I start talking to the kids, and
Yeah.
grades 4, 5, 6, I was voted the funniest kid in class. I was definitely the class clown. And like I was telling you beforehand, I've always been popular, in a way, but I never felt normal. And and I never was normal, and that was fine. But it was kind of like people were just kind of like I was putting on a show, or I was like showing off like some kind of actor, but I was just being myself. And so, like, on a regular basis, and we're talking daily, we're talking, and you're an educator, I'm an educator, and so like 3 to 5 days a week, I'm sitting outside, for like an hour straight, and I didn't really think I was in trouble. I just
It's
knew this.
torture for an ENTP. I'm sorry, sitting outside is torture.
Well, no, because there's always things going on.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
And so I was always like watching and stuff, like people are coming here, and I was memorizing patterns about when the custodian was going down there, or when this teacher was there. Then I figure out who was like dating who, and I didn't realize there was teachers dating each other. It's like, it was just interesting to me. And so, I'll stop talking right now. Why don't you tell me about uh, elementary school? Yes or no? Do you agree?
Okay. Elementary school was pretty easy, I think. I was always the kid, and it's okay to be weird in elementary school because kids are just weird in general. And I was always the kid that would get invited over to slumber parties because I had the coolest stories, and all the girls under the blanket with flashlights telling scary stories and shrieking. And so I had a lot of fun in elementary school. I think that's the time also where you can kind of tell it like it is, and kids just do that, so it wasn't bad.
Yeah.
Um, like you, I would get in trouble because I would finish my work first, and then I would go around helping other people or talking, and so I'd
Well,
get in
you're helping.
trouble.
I was make people laugh.
Oh, yeah, no, I was like, no, you're not doing that right. Let me help you. Or they would be struggling. But I would get in trouble for talking a lot, a whole lot. Um, yeah, a whole lot.
Did you
So,
ever get accused for like showing off? Like other students for like saying like, oh, you're just trying to show off, and things like that. And like I was also in classes that was called gifted and talented, um, where they like took certain kids out of the class, and like we made us like build like hot air balloons and weird stuff.
mhm.
And I never really understood what was going on, or they would test to see how well I read. And it was just, I don't know. And that stuff ever like happen to you? Things like that?
Yes, but I don't remember being having issues with being class clown or anything until I was closer to like upper elementary, middle school age. And people saying, you're kind of weird, you're strange. Maybe we should do something else with you type thing. So that was when I think more of the, I don't know, I started noticing that I was a little bit different than everybody else
Yeah.
around that time.
Yeah, so I was talking to you beforehand about I'm trying to mix my upbringing, if it was more or less Jehovah's Witness influence or ENTP influence, because also many of my friends were much older than me. Did you have like any friends that are older than you and things like that? Like many of mine are like 6 years older than me, and I was really hanging out with my older brother's friends more or less than my own age.
No, I'm the oldest out of my sister and I, but I would hang out with the adults.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
was
Yeah.
the,
Yeah. Yeah. I totally
yeah.
agree. And like the other kids thought it was weird that I would hang out with adults and listen to them and talk.
Mhm.
And I think, I don't know, I think I was looking for something more intelligent, more mature in some way.
Yes, definitely.
And I played a lot of like video games that were more like I beat like Final Fantasy 2 on a Super Nintendo. I guess they call Final Fantasy 4 now. Like at 7, and like my other friends weren't able to play it because they weren't able to read as well. And like the
Mhm.
comprehension of reading an RPG game was just like really hard. And to me also, like instead of like reading like comic books and other stuff that everyone else read, I read like animal encyclopedias.
Mhm.
And like I was just reading zoo books, and my teachers were really encouraging me, oh, you need to be a zoologist one day because you can just memorize all these different things. And I'm like, okay, and everyone was always like pushing me to do certain things. And then I had obviously the religious side, um, and like ENTPs, a lot of people don't realize how kind of a zealot we can be if it's something we believe in. And so like I was known as like a kid who was 9 years old, like riding my bike to the Kingdom Hall by myself, and then going into the Kingdom Hall and going out in the ministry to knock on doors at 9 years old because people were going to die,
Mhm.
so
You got to save them.
I gotta save people, and like looking back on it now, it sounds insane, but it was just like at the time that was very important. And so if this is true and this is what we're supposed to do, I had no problem doing it. And we also mentioned beforehand about being ISFJ focused, and I imagine as a woman you would be ISFJ focused because that was more ideal versus being an INTJ focused woman because I don't think most of society, I mean, I hope it's not me giving your age away is offensive, but for
No.
the age, of that era, so that when you were born in what, 79?
Yep.
Okay. And I was born in 84. So typically, you're not a millennial though. You're still a Gen Xer,
Just barely.
just barely, and well, I'm just barely a millennial.
Mhm.
And there were still female male roles growing up.
Mhm.
Most definitely. And where'd you grow up at, by the way?
In Texas, Southeast Texas.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. So definitely.
Very
Okay.
much. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I grew up in California, which is obviously a lot more progressive than most other states. I grew up in Napa, though, which is more of a conservative city, which was, before the 70s was orchards and farm communities. And so a lot of that still existed there. There's still a lot of dairies in the area, things like that. There's more than just wine grapes. Um, okay. So I've been talking too much. Now you need to start saying something.
Oh, well, I forgot what the question was. Oh, growing up with the.
Yeah, we're just doing SI rehashing here.
Gotcha. Okay. Let me think. Yeah, so I have my family is very much an SJ, very affiliative family. So I figured out by the time I was mid-teens that being an ENTP didn't fit as well. So I wore masks and I was a chameleon and I was able to um, encompass all those nice FE parent traits that my mom had, which were not bad, kindness and thinking of others and the things that I already had as having the FE child. But that was very much something that I learned and embodied as a teenager. So it took back some of that crazy flamboyantness that I had as just being ENTP constantly. And so honestly, I had a mask on thinking I needed to be more like my mom.
Yeah, I no, I 100%, I get that. Granted, for me, I think a lot of the more affiliative types growing up as a witness, kind of missed holidays more. I never really cared about them, to begin with. I mean, as a Jehovah's Witness, so it's like I didn't grow up missing birthdays or Christmas, but other XJWs do. And so I'm assuming that has more to do with the pragmatic side and not really having an interest, for instance, in that situation. So I don't feel like I was robbed in that sense. Um, in fifth grade, I was teased a lot for not celebrating Christmas during during the holiday season, and I hated that because I was really, really popular. And then, like, all of a sudden, now everyone was just making fun of me all the time, and about something I couldn't control, And so there was
Right.
that. But I kind of entered like a rebellious stage in middle school. How was middle school for you?
Horrid. I would never want to go back to middle school. It was terrible. Um, I don't
Okay,
remember.
I agree.
No, that
I
was the
was
thing. I hated getting in trouble. That was. I think that's what kept me kind of with the rebellious part of it. My rebellion was probably more sneaky later, um, doing things, and I would know I did it. And I'm like, yes, I can be free, but I didn't get in trouble for it. So I don't remember. Yeah, I didn't like getting in trouble because I knew if I got in trouble at school, it's going to be worse at home. And I tell you, FE child spanking is just it
okay.
hurts, man.
Okay, you sound like me too. It's just like I would do things that were obviously pragmatic and rebellious, but I didn't get
Mm-hmm.
caught.
Mm-hmm.
And so, while my more SP friends, because most of my friends, uh, were most of your female friends SJs? Probably.
Yeah, I mean, I hung in a lot of circles. I think my best friend was an ENFP, was one, and the other one, I think she was an INTJ, maybe. I'm
Oh,
trying to,
interesting. I had
like my closest.
my middle school best friend was ENFP as well. His name was
Yeah.
Matt as well. So we were Matt and Matt. And
Nice.
we used to sneak into the basketball courts because neither of us played sports with other people for obvious reasons. And so it's just like that didn't really interest us. But we figured out that we can sneak in and then set the alarm off.
Nice.
You know,
Nice.
not like the fire alarm, but like the buzzer alarm. So everyone had to stop playing basketball
The
and they had to run
timer.
over and turn off the timer. It's like, bang!
Yeah, yeah,
We
yeah.
were like laughing our head off, and running away and stuff. And everyone knew we were doing it, but I don't know. No one ever did anything with us. We also had fun like sneaking into people's backpacks and stuff like that, and like doing like, oh, dude, this book is really, really good. We're like reading it next to them, and then they finally pick a clue up that hey, it's just their book.
Hmm. Yeah,
And
I
so I'm like, this
remember.
is the road coming out. And so it's
Oh,
like, yeah.
definitely.
I mean, I am guilty to say that, yeah, I did steal money too sometimes. When people were out, I'd go into the locker room with my friend Matt, and it was his ideas, those
Of
ENF.
course.
And, well, I mean, the child function develops quicker than the parent function. So an ENFP at a young age doesn't really have any morality, in all honesty,
Mhm.
because that doesn't come until later in their 20s, usually. And so, yeah, but after I had my own money jacked from me in ninth grade, I stopped stealing completely. Never ever have again in my life. And that was when I learned. We learn lessons the hard way,
Oh, yeah, always.
and so it's just like you learn the lessons the hard way, and you don't repeat it again, or you don't get caught in the same way.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so there's one of the two things.
I remember being rebellious. It was freshman or sophomore level biology, and we were dissecting a cat. And I thought it would be funny, and this was my idea, and I executed it with a partner. But after we were done dissecting, we had cat parts, and I went and put them in people's lockers. I kind of feel bad for it. Sorry if you're one of the victims out there, but it was awesome. I never got caught though.
Yeah,
That was
yeah,
the best
yeah.
part.
Uh,
In office aid, you have access to locker
what were your?
combinations.
Oh,
Nice.
thought I was losing you. What were your favorite subjects?
Math and science. I was also a musician, so music. Yeah.
What kind of music?
I was in band. I was a band nerd. I played trumpet.
Okay,
So
I played the saxophone in fourth, and I played the flute in fifth, but I never went back to it.
And
Uh,
dance. I liked dance too. Like you said, team sports. Not a big fan of team sports, but I could pick up movement very easly. I just couldn't
yeah.
dance with a partner either. I still can't. I always wanted to learn to ballroom dance, but I
Yeah.
lead. I lead. I'm like, just follow me.
Okay.
I'm terrible at following.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. I've always had a fascination, though, how to ballroom dance. It's so funny you mentioned that.
Uh-huh.
And I've always had a fascination or an affinity towards classical art. More, even something that's like tango and things like that.
Yeah.
Later on in life, I joined the Spanish congregation and they were always trying to teach me how to salsa, but I really struggled with that because it
Oh, I
was
like
with a
salsa.
partner,
Hmm.
and so it's just kind of like, and with me, when it came to dance, it was always being instructed on what to do,
Hmm.
not what you wanted to do.
Right.
So it really conflicted against that pragmatism, and you're just like, well, I don't want to dance that way. Well, this is the way it has to be. You're like, oh, okay. I'm sorry. I didn't know. Here's some rules for you placed on your lap. Thanks. You
That's
know,
why you go to salsa clubs and you just by yourself.
yeah, that's when I like freestyle and I had to like do booty dancing and things like that.
Yeah.
That's all on me, and, so now in high school, for instance, I wasn't allowed to date as a witness, and I'm also gay. So there was also that. But I never really had an interest in it, if that makes any sense. Like, it wasn't like I was missing out on it or like wanting to date. And I always remember like hanging out with my SP friends, and they were always like, "We gotta go check this girl out. We got to go over there to her house." They're always sneaking around, so they can secret date. Like most
Yeah.
high school students actually still do, and even outside of the witness circles, they were like that. I'm assuming most of the time.
Yes.
Um, how did you deal with that?
I wasn't really interested in dating too much until I don't I don't know. I think I felt the need finally to want to date when I saw everybody was doing it, and I was like, but once again, trying to fit in.
Yeah,
But I wasn't interested in it. I was more interested in such a nerd learning. Although
yeah.
I wouldn't do high school over again. I was excited for college just for that reason, and just being social, just being able to move between people, and I just liked being with people. So,
Interesting. Okay, because I was the same way. I had friends in the jock club. I had friends who were in
mhm.
band. I had friends in drama. I had friends who were playing
Yes.
Pokemon cards. You know, uh, that was a big deal in high school. Pokemon Color came out, I think, in ninth grade, and like everyone had Pokemon stuff. And most people think that's a little kid's game. No, no, no.
This is
Pokemon is serious, okay?
right.
And did you feel the need to go to like football games and things like that?
So I was on the dance team and the band. So I went to every single football game in high school because I was supposed to be there. So I liked the atmosphere and the excitement, and it's Texas, so that's what we do Friday
Okay.
nights. Still couldn't
Yeah,
tell you how football's played though.
that's interesting. Well, no, in California, and I wish I had explained this to people. I'm in Texas right now, and I lived in Tennessee, South Carolina, Nebraska, and all this kind of stuff. And I always try to explain to people, and it feels like I'm speaking French, and they're just like confused as hell.
Yeah,
I'm like, football's not that important in California.
yeah.
For them to understand that doesn't make any
They
sense. They're
can't.
like, well, you guys have
Yeah,
the 49ers, and they're a good franchise. That doesn't matter.
yeah.
We had the Oakland Raiders, LA Rams, all these teams, San Diego Chargers. There's good football colleges here too. People don't watch it in
Right.
California, okay? I mean, the 49ers are winning this year, and they kind of just now fill their stadium. For the most part, it's not like Texas. Tennessee football was a religion,
Oh yeah.
and like the high school, I don't want to call them stadiums, but the football
That's what it
fields,
is. Yeah,
yeah,
that's what
they're
it is.
nice.
Yeah.
I mean, my football stadium in Napa, California, was like concrete slabs, ghetto, and like
Yeah.
nobody went to the games anyways. And in all honesty, the kid who was the best at skateboarding was just as popular
Right.
as like the quarterback, things like that. And
And not in
so,
Texas. No, football is
no,
everything. That's where the money's funneled into in the schools. It's
yeah,
a little unfair, but it's the way it is.
yeah. Similar story like that. When I was in Tennessee, my friend was in a drafting class and they shut it down for a football program.
Ouch. Ouch. I bet he was highly irritated.
Yeah, a lot of education there, and so
Yeah,
it's just like, but I don't know. I think schools are on their way out anyways. I think it'll be online soon, so it doesn't really matter.
probably.
Um, there's definitely the money's going that way. Did you go to your prom?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I did. My mom was big on tradition and stuff, and so I honestly, I think I just handed over that those type of things to her. In later in life, or actually starting in high school, if there was something that I was supposed to do traditionally, then I would just look at her and she'd be like, "You're going to do this." So like,
Yeah.
okay, it's easier just to do it than to argue.
How was like fashions and styles and things like that, with like your hair and
Oh my
clothes
gosh,
and
I was clueless. So I have an
stuff like that?
ISFP little sister. So I think honestly that I've gotten to where I am now because of her SE. Because was I wouldn't have known something was good or bad until I got made fun of it. And I'm like, maybe I should not do that. And so I've learned and stored that information.
Yeah.
But it wasn't important to me and I didn't really care, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, it was only important when people made fun of me. So it's
Yes, and
interesting
like
what you say
crap.
that, because I remember like having new shoes was really important in middle school and high
Hmm.
school and things like that. I remember a girl made fun of me because like my socks were Champion, but I wore Reeboks. And
Oh, don't
apparently you're
know.
supposed to have Reebok socks with Reeboks. I didn't know these things,
My
you
socks
know,
never went.
and so like I told my mom, I was all upset, you know, and I think she got me some Reebok socks or something like that. But it was kind of like, this is the way and it's still kind of this way, is I would see something I thought was cool on
Hmm.
somebody. Like they had really cool shoes, like Skechers were really popular at the time, and they had like the
Hmm.
platforms almost, you know,
Oh yeah,
lugs,
yeah.
or lugs and Skechers. This was high school, you know, and so I thought those were cool shoes. But you're supposed to wear them with like other GQ stuff.
Right.
I don't know that, you know, and so like I'd wear those shoes, but then like wear like baggy jeans that like a stoner would wear, you
Right.
know, and then like a shirt that was like a jock shirt or something like that. So it's just a mix of different things I thought were cool, but they just totally clashed, you
Yeah.
know, and like by high school, you know, I only got a haircut when my mom forced me to, you know, obviously as a witness that was kind of forced upon anyways, but like you can tell me right now, like it wasn't really that important to me. And I had a flat top in elementary school for the longest time because my hair naturally sticks up. But yeah, so it was how was your mom when it came to your clothes and stuff like that?
My mom was a single mom at this point, so she was working a lot of jobs, and so I couldn't have a lot of like the fashion stuff anyway. Um, and as a girl, I wanted to be pretty, I wanted to be desirable, but I was just clueless on what that looked like. And I think that's why I loved hanging with my ENFP best friend, is because she was also just like, we're going to go to the thrift store and buy all kinds of cool things, and she was totally okay with just being like the hippie kid.
Yeah,
And her mom was a teacher, and she did drama and everything else, and so it was very okay for her, and she was popular. But my mom didn't really influence. It was actually my little sister that influenced more on. You look retarded wearing that. You probably shouldn't do it.
okay,
Um,
yeah,
so
yeah. Like I mentioned, most of my male friends, you know, were SPs, and it always felt like, especially ESTPs, want to take me under their wing,
yeah,
and you know, and I think ESTPs look at us like we're like lost hopes, you know, and just like, you know, like you're God, you have no idea what you're doing, you know, and that's fine. You know, it's just like I would wear whatever you put on me, you know,
yeah,
so it's just like,
yeah,
okay, this is what you want. And
right,
so a lot of people don't realize about ENTPs. ENTPs is all about what other people want. What
yeah.
do you value?
And what's comfortable. And
What's
now I'm at that. What am I comfortable in, but
Yeah.
also will look decent on me.
Yeah, well, yeah, but when we get older, though, there's a lot less demands of us of what we wear, in all honesty. And so,
I don't know. For a woman, I think there's still some. There's
okay, we'll
always a
go into that
demand.
then. Okay.
Yeah. I think, in fact, I find it harder as I'm getting older. I'm starting to finally like catch up to where someone who may be an SP and they're, I don't know, 10, when they're 10 or 11 years old, I'm probably like a then by now. My point being, I'm finally like embracing, okay, this clothing thing isn't so bad. Maybe I can have a style. Maybe I can do something to make myself look feminine and pretty. And but now I'm like, well, now I'm 40. So now I've got to worry about all the things like, how am I going to be beautiful when I'm 50 and 60 and 80? So there's that aspect of it, especially if you go by what society says. And like, all right, when should I start having plastic surgery?
Oh God.
That is a joke. I meant that as a joke. But,
I was like,
as it
are
is,
you,
I'm like,
I don't know, but your culture might be different. Maybe it's pressured in Texas. I don't know.
oh, yeah.
You get
Well, I
plastic
don't know.
surgery. Really?
Oh, probably. There's money here and lots of plastic surgeons, so I'm assuming people are.
There's a, there was almost a rebellion of that in Northern California because we didn't want to be like Southern California.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And so Northern California is more hippie and more like, let's have hairy armpits. And
The opposite, right?
yeah, the opposite. And
No
we're so much more
plastic.
sophisticated and more in tune with the environment than you guys down there. And there's a rivalry between Southern and Northern California that people don't realize because we always get compared to each other. You know, California's a huge state, and there's 36 million people there. You know, and so it's just like, oh, you're from LA. I'm like, I've been to LA, you know, but I know nothing about it. You know, everyone wants to talk to me about Anaheim. They want to talk to me about Santa Barbara and things like that. I'm just like, I don't know. I'm from Northern California, and I talked to you before this. Like my older brother, my closest sibling, you know, he's 6 years older than me. Uh, got like all these awards in metal shop and
Mhm.
in high school, and like he created like these dinosaurs, and everyone was like, "Oh my God, you're the greatest welder ever," you know. And so it's like I always like looked up to him, you know, and kind of like I'll get back into the roofing subject too after this, but like then I got into like metal shop and metal sculpture, and like my art was always very crude looking, you know, and just didn't have that refined ISTP like SE parent, you know, they can just make things just perfect.
Mhm.
And it just, and they don't even care, you know, it's nothing to them. And
Right.
like, it's just like, oh, I'm just making stuff, you know, and it's just so easy for me. And he had all of these blue medals. I never got any blue medals, you know, anything like that, or any kind of ribbons at the fair. But I made stuff like I made like a cloister, that's a Pokemon, and like like a Charmander and all this other stuff and things like that in high school. But like I can never live up to those expectations. And but you mentioned your ISFP sister is younger than you. How much?
2 years.
2 years. So there's still kind of a rivalry there then.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
We had different interests, so it wasn't too bad. I was into music and got lots of awards for that, and was band president. And like I said, I wanted to wear the mask and achieve. And she was more of the sports person and did volleyball and sports stuff. So
Okay.
we had
So do
different
you
interests.
think the most of females that play sports in high school are SPs? Do you think so?
Um, so they open it up to everyone, but the ones I'm thinking of now, yes, yes, yes. Although I think some SJs were in there too
Yeah.
because they wanted to be, because But yeah, I mean, I don't see why they wouldn't be.
Yeah, I
Um,
would imagine there'd obviously be some ESTJs and ESFJs because SE parent, I mean, SE critic is jockish.
mm-hmm.
Uh, like I dated an ESFJ and he was on football he actually got a scholarship to Ohio State for long distance running, and he was really into sports, but it seemed like he was doing it because he was pressured into it. And I'm sure you know our quadra is easily pressured and guilted
No, I didn't know that.
into doing things we may not really want to do, but it's like it's the right thing to do. And
Right.
so with me, like obviously, you know, playing sports as a man, you know, as a male, you know, is kind of really pushed upon you. And I was really fast, so that
Mm-hmm.
helped. And like I said, I was athletic, but I didn't really have the team camaraderie because the SE is just so low. And but like I was brought up, you know, let's get more on the battle of the sexes at this point.
Okay.
I was brought up from an ISFJ mother, ESFP father. Both were raised as farmers on farming households. My dad was a roofing contractor, and my mother definitely believed in male and female roles. Obviously, we're a very fundamentalist Christian religion too, Jehovah's Witness and things like that. And she's always clearly was laid the line down. This is the job men do, and
Mm-hmm.
this is a job women do. Now, this kind of thing, I have a sister who's an ENTJ, so you can imagine the hell she went through,
Oh,
you know, because my
yeah.
mom was like, no, this is not the way a Christian woman is supposed to act. You know,
Right.
you're not supposed to be in charge. You're supposed to be docile and ISFJ like, you
Right.
know, and so she went through probably more hell than I did because ENTPs can adapt. And so they're like, oh, maybe this manly role, sure, whatever. But I never really understood the purpose. you know. And then when it came to like using tools and learning how to do roofing and doing construction and things like that, obviously the ISTP brother picked it up much faster, you know, and just like it was just natural for him to do that kind of stuff. And so I mean, I know how to put your roof on. A lot of people don't realize I know how to put your roof on. I can fix it. You know, I was raised um you know, since pretty much 16, doing it part-time with my father during the summers and things like that. And I was raised to do, you know, men's work, you know,
Mhm.
even though I wasn't really that good at it. So, what was it like to be raised doing woman's work, especially as the oldest woman? So I'm assuming you had to have some responsibility in that sense.
Yes, but like I said, my parents divorced when I was young. And I was raised by mostly women who were like, you don't need a man to do that. You can do it yourself. So I learned all kinds of things
This
like
is like
painting
Yaha
fires.
sisterhood.
Yeah, very much so. So I learned, I mean, I'm actually decent with tools. I can put together things because I learned how to do it when I was younger, you know, not because I was particularly
Yeah.
adept at just doing it. I just watched someone do it. So the roles thing actually to me is wasn't drilled into me at all. Even as an older, I had a more responsibility being the oldest child, but they were more motherly like. Like I would watch my sister and I would make sure she did what she was supposed to do, which caused issues. Her being only 2 years old younger than me. I
Yeah.
still have that feeling towards her, by the way, too, and she's a lot older than 10.
So you're a mother now. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
did that pursuit of motherhood freak you out,
Mm,
or did it feel natural to you?
that's a good question. I think it freaked me out because my first child is the first baby I ever held, that I ever had to feed, that I ever had to change diapers. Like I didn't know what I was doing,
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah,
I
yeah.
like challenges, and I'm
Okay.
so it didn't scare me. It was just like, all right, this is what we're doing. I guess if I mess her up, we'll just have to save money for therapy later, you know?
Good. Yeah, it's I mean that's true. I mean I think everyone who's a mature adult looks back at their childhood and sees that their parents did the best they could for the
Right.
most part, you know, and you kind of like forgive them and things like that. So that's typically how people grow up. Myself personally, I never really ever thought about being a father. Obviously, I was not interested in women, and I was essentially a Christian, you know, and trying to stay single and just do ministry and things like that. Until now, recently, now that I'm out of the cult, you know, now I'm like, well, adoption is an option, but I'm still like thinking about it if it's worthwhile to me. And
Mm-hmm.
so it kind of freaks me out to have that kind of responsibility. You know,
Mm-hmm.
SI Inferior doesn't like being tied down. You know, the idea of,
Yeah.
I mean, if I have a child, that's for life.
Right.
You know, and so that's the responsibility that I can't just put to the side. It's not like a relationship or even
You're
a
like,
car or a house, you know, things like that. And ENTPs, for the most part, we do struggle with trying to run away. And
yep.
and so as soon as we're like, oh, I'm out of here, you know, and so we're uncomfortable. I don't like it, you know, bye. And so that's kind of scary to me in some ways or another. Um, but
I
back,
think being a mom, is what's helped me grow my shadow. In all honesty, I think that's what's made me not run away, to be direct, to be, to know what sacrificial love is. So I think it's wise to be a little bit nervous of it, but I wouldn't change it. I mean, it's made me grow as a person. I can't be so flighty now. I have to stay in the arena and figure out what I need to do with this, whatever issue it is, whether the baby's not eating or the toddler won't quit trying to fly off the rooftop, or whatever the issue is. I did
yeah,
not let my children get on the roof. I need to clarify that, but you know what I mean.
I always tell people I was born on a roof. So my mother gave birth to me on the roof, you know, and I mean, a little quick story, you know, they had to put like extra barricades around the swimming pool because I would just go over it
It just, yeah,
as a
yeah.
2-year-old, you know, and so I was never afraid of being on my own. And
Nope.
like most kids will hold on to their mom's skirt or whatever like that, or they'll hold their hands and they're nervous. My mom would go to the grocery store and like let go of my hand for 1 second, you know, grab a shopping cart and I was gone,
Yeah, same, same.
you know,
How could it please them?
and like on multiple occasions, you know, I was grabbed by like a store clerk or whatever like that and brought to the front. And then on the intercom, it's like, Mrs. Cowan, your son's up front. You need to come get him,
Again.
you know? And I'm like, I was fine, you know? And so, but my parents taught me how to swim at 1.
Yeah,
for that reason.
my grandmother took me swimming, and she didn't know how to swim. And so when I just jumped in at 18 months, 2 years, and she didn't know what to do, yeah,
Yeah.
she didn't take me swimming anymore.
Yeah. And so the longest time I swam like a frog because I was wearing a diaper while in the pool.
Hmm.
And so my legs were like that, and you mentioned cooking, and like I cook. I don't claim to be anything good. I mean, I'm from Napa, and I've worked for the best chefs in the world. So that's an ENTJ job, okay? And even though my ENTJ I'm currently dating doesn't know how to cook at all, and I make fun of him for it all the time. And it is interesting though when I give him little tasks to do, like cut vegetables or fruit or something like that, and he just does it naturally.
Hmm.
And I'm just like, and I've been doing it forever, and it still looks like crap. And like, but my mom taught me how to make my own sandwich at 3. And so I wake up on my own, go to the kitchen in the dark, and she put like peanut butter and butter down below where I can reach it. I make my own sandwiches, and I sit there and eat it in the dark. Apparently, everyone in my family thought I was insane. Like, there's a good reason I was. And so it's like, where am I going with this? Is like, my mother was 43 when she had me, and we were talking about MBTI and cognitive transitions, and so she was probably really developing her ENTP aspiration at that point.
Hmm.
And so I wonder if she could anticipate what I could do. And because no one else did this, she had 5 kids, and she didn't raise anybody else that way. And so it's just kind of interesting. Like, she knew that I was capable of doing this on my own and things like that.
That's probably, I mean, that sounds like that could be a thing because I've always made my kids do things that maybe other family members thought um, was above their ability,
Yeah.
or I'm making them be a lot more independent than what my mom did for me.
I mean, I'm all about, you're in education, I'm in education. I'm all about letting my students challenge themselves.
Mm.
I'm not there to hold their hand and babysit and things like that. And so I'm assuming that's kind of how we raise our kids too, in some ways. I mean, and the Alpha Quadrant is no exception with the self-righteousness, tough love type thing.
Oh
And,
yeah.
we can be very judgmental and things like that, and certain things like that, but um, I won't go there too much. But yeah, and so like growing up, like I was hanging out with other SP men, and we'll go back to like late teens, early 20s, and just seeing what everyone else was interested in it was just really getting distant at that point.
Yeah.
So all my childhood friends were getting very, very distant, and I didn't have a lot in common with them, and I thought that they were crazy. It's just like, I'm like, how is that important to you?
Yeah.
It's just like, and what they would argue over, what they would fight over. And it was always like, I was always like the glue that kept everyone
Hmm.
together.
Hmm. Effie child.
And like, as soon as I split, like all of them just stopped being friends, and I just like moved away here and there, and things like that. And so it was just kind of interesting to me. Um, but may I ask what type your husband is?
He's an ISFP.
Okay, ISFP.
Yeah, he
Okay.
does the cooking. I do not cook. I hate cooking.
Okay, so that's a bronze pair. It's very compatible.
Hmm.
Okay, and was that easy for you to find?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, we met at a restaurant. I was waiting tables in my
Okay.
20s, and yeah, he was a chef. So we met. Oh,
Okay,
I was.
wait, hold on. ENTPs are the best waiters, correct?
But yeah, he was a chef though. I was the waiter.
No, I know, but
Oh,
ENTPs
ENTPs.
are the best waiters, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was a very good. I did that for a long time, even after I got my degree, because it was easy money.
Easy money. It is like it's like being thrown like a fish in water. I think to ENTPs. I mean, I
Yeah,
did it for 9 years. I loved it,
yeah.
and I still love it. I mean, I still miss it.
I don't know
Sometimes.
if I miss it. I don't know.
Would you work at nice restaurants or like ghetto ones?
It was actually like a family-owned Italian restaurant, so it
Okay,
was
so it's just a
in
basic
between
restaurant.
that.
Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah, yeah. Okay. No, I worked in really fine dining.
Oh, okay.
So it's very educational.
Yeah.
We had executive chefs, we had like magazines and
Okay. Yeah. No, it
wine
wasn't like
lists and
that.
stuff like that. And so it was a pretty prestigious job in Napa, and it was respected, and I loved it. It was very challenging. The stress was intense. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
grown men in the kitchen crying,
Mm-hmm.
and like if you drop the fork in the restaurant, someone was getting yelled at, and it was just like super high pressure, and I loved it, and I
Yeah,
thrived.
chaos is good.
Yeah, it didn't bother
It's
me
so
one
bad.
bit. And I remember, like, I worked at Hard Rock Cafe for 1 year, and it was my first chain restaurant I ever worked at, and it was like so ghetto. And like, and I remember my manager's like, "Man, you're really, really good at this." I'm like, "This is a burger place. What are you talking about?" Like the menu is so pathetic and easy to memorize.
Right,
But for what I was used to, with like 35 ingredients and fruits and vegetables that no one even heard of,
right. And
coming
wines to
to
pair with it.
go to a barbecue burger with an onion ring on it. I'm like, ooh. And I don't know, it was just kind of funny to me. So you married an ISFP.
Hmm.
Cool. I have yet to date an ISFP. I had a fling with one in Serbia. Uh, and he was great. He actually was a singer too. He sang like choir or something like that. I mean, I only learned certain things about him because his English was obviously limited and things like that. And it was my European trips were kind of just like rebellion against the religion I was leaving, and so
Mm.
I was just kind of hooking up, I guess. But
We're being rebellious.
yeah, being rebellious and I don't know, that's just how it was. But so to me, I think ENTPs also have an advantage with any hero being like a radar.
Hmm.
And so you kind of understand what you need and what you want, and you just like go, and and like I'm gay and abstract, and so I'm a double minority, you
Hmm.
know, but I'm still able to find the types I need. Like I'm currently with an ENTJ,
Right.
and so I think ENTPs can be like that, where we can just find what we need, even though it's typically hard for other people, which I always
Yeah.
think is so funny when I see like an ESFP, for instance. I can't find an ISFJ anywhere. I'm like,
You're everywhere.
I'm like, how can you not? And I'm like, oh, any demon. And,
Oh, yeah.
it has to be like really right in front of their face, and then they're like, oh, or like an ISFJ. Where am I going to find an ESFP at? I'm like, go to any karaoke bar and they're going to be right there on the stage, and to me, that just seems so simple,
Yeah.
but to everyone else, it might be a little more difficult. Anyway, so we've gotten over the 20s. Is there anything you want to talk about that I've missed?
That we've covered already. Not that I can think of. I should have been taking notes though, because I think there was a couple things that pinged in my head, but I've moved on now, so I don't think so.
Okay, yeah, no, you can interrupt. It doesn't offend us to be interrupted. I don't care. You can
Oh,
interrupt.
I've enjoyed listening to you, so it's all good.
All
I
right,
think one of
cool.
us would transition a little bit because two ENTPs.
Yeah. Um, were you raised religiously?
Yes and no. So my dad's family was Pentecostal. In fact, my grandpa was a
Oh, it's
Pentecostal
another
preacher.
cult.
Hmm. And my mom grew up kind of Southern Baptist, but didn't really. I guess there was maybe some drama and stuff, so she kind of was like, mm-mm. And so I
Yeah,
wasn't really grown. I wouldn't even say we were like CEO Christians, Christmas and Easter only. I wouldn't even say we were that. But I went to vacation Bible school, and we had Christian principles. Um,
right. This is the CEO acronym. I've never heard that before. That's
oh,
funny.
it must be a Southern thing or a Southern Bible Belt thing because I
It
hear it
makes
all the
sense.
time.
That makes
Yeah,
sense but witnesses don't celebrate Christmas. They don't celebrate Easter, so that didn't make any sense. We have
yeah,
acronyms too. Like in the ex-JW community, for instance, you have PMOs, which is physically in, mentally out. So this is somebody who's trapped in the religion but
but
doesn't
not
believe in it,
there, right?
because if they leave, they lose all their friends and family and everyone they know.
And that's really sad.
Yeah. Well, there's
Really
quite a
sad.
few of them I brought into the Facebook group.
Good. I mean, good that you're doing that. You're
Yeah, a
going and
couple
rescuing.
INFJs, and I have no idea how he does it. I mean, I guess that's NI Hero. I don't know. I don't know how he does it. I mean, I wouldn't. And so yeah, to me, it's like I lost all of that and my friends and stuff like that, and yeah, it is painful, but we move on. And it's just kind of
Mhm.
like I just made new friends.
Right.
I made new family, and I know that's harder for other types because they actually have FI.
Yeah.
And to me,
Yeah.
it's just like I never really get attached to people to begin with. In
Yeah.
some ways, it's kind of like,
More loyalty, probably. More SI than
yeah,
it is
there's
FI.
loyalty out of duty, but as soon as that duty is done with,
Mhm.
any kind of contract signed or anything agreed with. That's why I'm always very careful about what I agree to,
Right.
because I'm stuck, and then I know I have to do it. And so, but for the most part, I'm always typically on time. I always try to make sure I always do what I promise. But like I tell people, I said ENTPs don't lie out directly. We leave out information.
Mm. Yeah,
Does that
that's
make
true.
sense?
That's
So
true.
you do a
Yeah.
roundabout thing, and
Yeah.
you're like, well, I never told you that. I didn't tell you where I was going. Now you may insinuate that, but those words did not come out of my mouth. And now, did I do that? Yes, I did. But I
You can
never
ask me,
told
I'll just tell you.
and so there's always like the semantical argument games that can happen, to a view like that, because that's how we can kind of appease our amoral conscience, and conscience. And that's kind of the way it is. So did you have an affinity towards teaching? Did you want to do it?
I did. I did. It
Know
happened,
this?
huh?
When did you know this?
Um, so I had a doctor tell me I was going to be a doctor. So when I went to college, I was pre-med. And after I took anatomy, which I loved anatomy because it was very hands-on, easy to learn, my anatomy professor said, I need you to teach my labs because you know this stuff really well. And I was like, okay. And after the first semester, I was like, dude, I got to teach. I want to teach. I love imparting knowledge. I love, I guess, hearing myself talk. I don't know. Um,
Interesting. Okay.
but I didn't teach right away after college. I still had the med school thing in my mind, and then realized after working with doctors that that really wasn't the area I wanted to be in. And I was tired of school and tired of the grind. It actually wasn't until a few years later, after I had graduated, I'd already gotten married and had one child, that I went back and got certified to teach and got in the classroom then.
And what was college like for you? Was it easy, or did you hate it in some way?
Um, so I didn't learn to learn until I got to college. So I appreciated from that. Like everything came so easy in high school that I never cracked the book. I just picked up everything. And
That's interesting. I dated an ENTJ in the past who's got 2 bachelors and 1 master's, and he got like Indiana scholarship or something like that. So he got a free ride for everything. But like he said, in high school went through really easy, but he didn't really know how to do research in college until he got there. Now, my current boyfriend, who's an ENTJ, went through private school in elementary, middle school, and high
uh,
school. And by the time he got to college, it was the same thing.
yeah, yeah, he knew how to then.
Yeah, and so he definitely had a lot of advantages. Getting a PhD in law was not a big deal to the problem. He's like,
Yeah.
whatever, and I'm just like, and I think a lot of that has to do with ENTJs. I don't know how familiar you are with them. They usually have a very big denial of their SI trickster,
Mm-hmm.
but his memory is better than most ENTJs. And
But
I'm assuming that comes from law, because
having to memorize, he just
yeah,
memorizes
and so
stuff.
his is kind of like on roids and things like that. That's interesting because I've heard conflicting stories with ENTPs in college, and I've heard ones that just like get into it, 6 months they drop out. I'm not
Yeah.
doing this crap. I can't stand this. It's just, I mean, I hate when I got a bachelor's degree online, and I went to go at my own pace, and so pretty much what that meant was binging and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
stopping, binging, stopping, binging, stopping.
Yeah.
What's up? I'm doing an interview right now. All right, hold on. There's 1 second.
Hello, ENTJ. Yeah,
All
I
right.
think with me, it's I like the structure of it. I know myself well enough to know I can go in 400 different directions and everything is very interesting. So I like it's accountability, what it is for me. And so I know that I will binge and stop and binge and stop and binge and stop. And then I learn it, but I learn it over the course of, I don't know, 3 years instead of a semester. So it's kind of a discipline thing, which is why I would go and get degree after degree I mean, I have a bachelor's and a master's so far, and I almost had a doctorate and decided I wanted to change gears.
Yeah, I would
So
imagine that'd be the case because my interests only last 4 or 5 years.
yeah, and I don't
And
care about the degree itself. I want the information.
correct.
If
And
someone could just
so,
give me the information, then I'd be like, I don't need a degree. Just package it so I don't end up flying off into 400 different places. Yeah,
yeah, I mean, this morning I was kind of like in an argument over veganism and health. I was really, really into health for about 5 to 10 years, I guess. I don't really care anymore. I know enough now to get by, stay healthy and things like that. And I'm cool with that. And so like in the past, I used to love to argue over these kind of things. And now I'm just not interested in it anymore. So now I kind of like argue about, psychology and MBTI and things like that. But even then, as I'm getting older and older and older, I'm arguing a lot less. And so what do you think about like the stereotype of ENTPs and just being these harsh critics who are just mean to everybody? Did you ever deal with that?
I love that you brought that up, and I think we talked about that in the group or the Facebook.
Yeah, because both of us we're considered the nice ENTP.
Yeah, the nice ones. So I've never been called an asshole. I was a little bit argumentative in middle school, and like I said, I didn't like getting in trouble. So I would just keep my thoughts to myself. So I've learned to channel that devil's advocate thing, and I guess being a teacher has helped. Instead of just arguing with people, I rephrase it into questioning them so that they can critically think. Does that make sense? So I'm using those arguments, but I'm using it in a way I feel, hopefully, that are not, that don't come across as rude, crude, and socially unacceptable.
Yeah. I mean, I have always loved to argue. And even when I got in trouble with my parents and got grounded, I can be able to argue my way out and get my sentence shortened.
Yeah.
Okay.
You catch them in a logical fallacy. You're like,
correct. Well, this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened. So I'm not at fault, and, and, the whole, any anticipating what they're going to say before they say it.
Yeah.
So you're on your way home or whatever like that. And they're going to bring up this, they're going to bring up this, they're going to bring up this. And so by the time you get there, it's like you've been preparing for 10 years. As a Jehovah's Witness, we're taught from birth essentially to be able to debate the Bible at the door. But in a nice way.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of like, so witnesses are raised to be argumentative, but nicely.
Right.
The cult smile. And so I never really had the reputation of just being an asshole, never. But people have accused me of refusing to be wrong, which I'll accept. And and it's weird. It's not, because I argue in my INTJ shadow. I know I do that because I get real TE like when I'm arguing. I get real like listy and labeling and like this article, this right here, bam, 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 bam. And people are like, how do you remember all this crap? I'm just like, don't argue with me, okay? And like, I know what you said. Everything you said will be used against you in the future, possibly, and so it will be memorized, you'll be analyzed, and this and such and such. But I don't do it out of ill will. I don't try to be mean. And so like I've had conversations with Roberts about this, about like my FB child being on roids, and I think that has to come to do with the religious upbringing. I'm definitely ISFJ focused. I'm definitely a very happy ENTP. I'm not the angry, to me, C.S. Joseph is angry.
Yeah.
And he's definitely shadow focused, and just like, it's not the and ISFJ focused. And we talked about, you claim to be ISFJ focused too, and that sounds like it. And so that's probably why we're the nice ENTPs. It does upset me to see other ENTPs in the community think they can lash out on people, be a jackass for no reason. And they're like, oh, I'm pragmatic and systematic, so it's okay.
It's not an excuse.
No, it's not okay. No, it's not, because you're still a human being and you have abilities to overcome that. So don't justify bad behavior with your weaknesses, because your weaknesses can be strengthened in any case. And so I'm always about empowerment. Let's get better. I want to be improved. And so that's kind of how that works. But most of my friends, my close, tight friends, I think they just knew, and for some reason, like some kinds, it's like, it seems like what I'm trying to get at is what I've also dealt with was people thinking like I was pretending, like I mentioned, they ask you if you're showing off. So some people think like, oh, wow, you're so cool because you moved here, you were in a band, and you just did this. I just do things, life happens at me, and it's just like opportunity comes, I take it. This opportunity comes, I take it. And it's like everyone thinks like I'm denying this. And I don't think I am, it's just that certain things happen. And then when I get close with people and they're all impressed with me at first, and then they realize I'm like that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so like how I'm conversing with you right now, this is how I am all the time.
Yeah.
You know, and so when I'm texting on Facebook or where like that, I'm not putting on some kind of Facebook persona. You know, that's how I am. You know, and so a lot of people always kind of think like maybe it's because we're more rare. You know, for most people, you know, they just like think it's an act. You know, like, oh, you're just putting on a show. No, I'm like this all the time. So do you ever feel like that's a case for you?
I've never been called out on that I know of, so I don't really know what people say, and I don't know how I come across, so I don't really know. But
Okay.
I don't think so. Like I said, I never like getting in trouble, so I try not to be a show off, so to speak. So I would kind of end that in. But I do tend to pick jobs or platforms where I can be more showy and drama and fun stuff like that. So yeah.
This is going back to the sexist thing again, because men, especially in very fundamentalist Christians, men are supposed to be the center of attention.
Right.
And women are supposed to be background.
Right.
And so a lot of the times I didn't want to be center of attention, but I was always thrust into that role anyways. And so I was okay with it because that's what everyone wanted. That's what everyone valued in a man. But I ran into this, we'll stay on the sexist thing. And like, to me, I found it fun to take care of my health, to care about other people and to help other people in that sense. And most guys found that stupid. You know, I got made fun about that for a lot, you know, as an adult. And I always thought that they were so irresponsible. And I'm like, the Bible says that you're supposed to be the head of the household. You're supposed to set the example for your children, and you're eating Doritos all day long. You know, and to me, I was like, it was just, that didn't make any sense to me. And so like, I was always teased in that sense. But as a woman, typically speaking, the person in the household pushing people to eat healthier is usually the female, because they're usually
Mm-hmm.
SJs. And so you wouldn't have had that problem. No one would have thought that would be that much of a difference, you know. And we mentioned also beforehand about our quadra, every single one of us, you know, ESFJs, ISFJs, INTPs, ENTPs, we're all double pragmatic. And so even the SJs have the rebellious side. And so, so after all this conversation, what do you think? Do you think like there's more? Do you think C.S. Joseph is right, and it's easier for females to be ENTPs?
I think there's too much context and there's too much personal stuff to really say that. I don't know. Maybe in some aspects they are, but not. I don't think it's across the board. No.
Okay.
I have no evidence to support that except my own anecdotal evidence, because I do not know any other ENTPs like personally. Well, I know one, but it's a male, and he's from Italy, you know, so it's not the same.
Yeah. I mean, I think I also can hide more too, because I'm gay, and so like being an SI gay person isn't that big of a deal,
right?
You know, because there's not really a set rules. There's no set affiliative roles necessarily. It's getting there, but it's not necessarily dogmatic yet, You know. And with me, I mean, with definitely thinking, you know, I can find an ISFP male, I can find an ENTJ male, an INTJ male, and they have no problem being the NI user, being the SE users, and I can follow and assist them, and I have no problem doing that. You know, I'm an assistant, I'm a shaman, I'm not a leader. I don't ever claim to be. You know, I might get thrust into leadership roles, but it's not by my design. You know, it's not like I was looking for that dick position, you know, like an ENTJ would. You know, and it's funny to see him, you know, and you see different roles and things like that. And ENTJs, he can just enter a room of command. People follow. You know, I'm just like, okay.
Yeah, the only time I want to be in that role is whenever whoever's doing it is doing a crap job and I refuse to follow them.
Correct.
You know, I'm like, I just rather do my own thing. Just leave me alone. I guess that's
I get that. If we want to get closing with this, I do want to do some stuff with you and Eugene, and we can talk about using like MBTI and typology and education purposes. And
you're gonna have 3 informatives on here, Matthew.
Yeah, why not?
I'm kidding. That was
overall movement too. Chaos be fine. And so
you're gonna have all the structure control people.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I don't care. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, this is. I'm not trying to make millions here. I mean, this is just for fun. And so it's just like, I just think I mean, I was tired of making videos by myself, and and there's all these really cool people in the community. It's like they need to speak, and people need to. I mean, eventually, I think maybe even like I was talking to you about this on Facebook, like we can have like in a real good conversation in the group, and I can just like host it and send them the link, and everyone go,
Conference meeting.
Yeah, a conference meeting. I mean, you don't even have to record it, I mean, just like have a conversation this way because. Obviously I had an idea of your personality Facebook, but then talking to you face to face is completely different.
Mm-hmm.
Just like I had an idea of how Abby was, and then talking to her face to face is a completely different situation. Mm-hmm. And it's also really good for the SE inferiors.
Yes.
I think so. And we are all about empowering other people. Yeah. So you're right. I can see, has there ever been a time as an adult woman where your pragmatism has got you in trouble?
Oh, yeah, it has. Okay. Especially when I decided to just own my pragmatism and stop trying to be affiliative all the time. I can't think of an example right this second, except that it's just, okay. Well, the biggest problem is when I speak my mind towards my very affiliative family and be like, I'm not going to do it that way because I don't want to. And then, it's like, but they've gotten used to it now. It's the cool thing.
Yeah. And I think a lot of what you have also is the fact that your husband is a pragmatic too.
Yeah.
And so there's no like affiliative rules.
No.
When I was with the ESFJ, there was these affiliative rules that were applied that I did not know idea about. You know, the covert contracts and like, oh, this is the way this relationship is supposed to work. I'm like, I didn't agree to any of that.
Right.
It's all about contracts and agreements, right. And so it's just all contract agreements. Oh, community contracts? Oh yeah, I rejected those a long time ago, and so it's just like, that's not applicable, to our relationship. This is the way it's going to be. And it was just kind of cool with the ENTJ. It is like a contract. Right. And, NT relationship is just kind of like, okay, I agree to do this. Okay, I don't agree to do this. Okay, that's fine. And it seems to work. And some people might think it's like cold and robotic, but I don't think so. I think it's really,
kind of refreshing, actually.
Refreshing because right? There's no pressure, Yeah. And so it's just like either you want to be here or you don't.
Yeah.
It's
kind of cool because my household, I have 3 kids and I only have one affiliative kid. My oldest is an ISTJ. So we're all about the pragmatism in the house, which is good and bad. It's hard to parent a pragmatic child. My middle is an ESFP that has ADHD and dyslexia, by the way. So, trying to tell her why it's important to learn to read, she's just like, I don't care and I'm not good at it. So why do it? And I'm like, okay, I see your point, but so it's interesting.
How old is she?
Dynamics. She'll be 11 this weekend, actually. And we have lots of talks about it, and she's understanding now. Like I can reason with her, but a few years ago,
dyslexia just triggered. Like, you read the book by Malcolm Gladwell, David and Goliath?
No, I haven't, and I like him.
Awesome book. I love INFP writers. How do you feel about INFP writers?
I'm okay with him. I don't have a problem with him. Yeah.
No, but are INFP writers like so profound to you?
They are actually. Okay, now that you put it that way.
Because there's so much FI, and it's like everything is like, oh, you explained FI to me so simply, and I can understand it now.
Thank you for packaging it and just giving it to me. Someone just make it easy for the ENTP already. God, I mean, it doesn't mean I care about it, but I can understand it.
Yeah, to me, INFPs, I'm like, and Robert is like, I don't understand why everyone likes Robert Greene so much. I'm just like.
Well, Robert has his own FI values. And
correct.
So for those of us who have no FI, when we get fed FI, we're like, okay, that makes sense. I can see that. I probably won't do it, but I see it.
Yeah. And other FI, like FI parent might be a little more harder for us to consume, and.
I have a hard time with FI parents sometimes.
Yeah.
They have a hard time with me. Actually, I think it's probably they have a hard time with me. I've never been blocked in my life except for like 3 different FI parent people.
Correct. I mean,
I'm not a mean person, so I don't know.
No, you're right. And I've mentioned this many times, and I've gotten like 0 likes on my comments, so I know it pisses people off because they're sensitive. But I get trolled nonstop by ESFPs. And even in person, walking around town, it seems like I'm constantly being attacked by them, and like they're constantly trying to get me to see their way of view.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, whoa, calm down. I'm like, that's cute. I understand FI is important to you, but it's not to me. And they're like, well, how could you not have a side? I don't have a side. I don't care, you know, and it's like, as long as you're not hurting people, I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
You know, and so like, yeah, if you're hurting children, you're hurting animals. I went through a vegan phase, you know, FE child is sensitive,
Yes.
but it's not dogmatic. It's not
No.
adamant. You know, it's not like, no, this is the way it has to be because I feel this way. You know, that's just non-existent. And do you get attacked by like ESFPs and ENFP all the time?
Yes, but I've gotten to where I can try and diplomatically explain. I don't use the word trickster, but I try to explain to them about type. If they know about type, I just remind them that you're targeting my trickster. That's not very fair. How about we talk about logic for a while and see what happens? You know, because that would be
Yeah.
their trickster, which wouldn't be fair of me to do. So if they don't know about type, I usually just don't argue with them because it's just not worth it to me. I'm like, I'm not going to argue with you if you're not going to
Yeah.
actually be able to argue your point and my point. We're not going to agree. So, okay, I get you. You do you and I'll do me.
Yeah, that's the ISFJ grounded thing, you know, for us. And being that focused, I think we can avoid those kind of conversations. And it's nice that you mentioned they understand type. That makes a big difference
So
because
much.
to a child that doesn't understand type thinks they are logical.
Yeah, they do.
Just
And you
like
know,
I used to
they
think I was moral.
yes, and they are in their own aspect. You know, they've
Yeah.
accumulated their own information. And I was going to say something. I think I can usually foresee if someone's going to be receptive to it or not. And then if they are, then I don't mind having those conversations. And if they're not, then I'm like, it's too much energy for me. Whenever, especially because when it's high emotion, when people are especially bringing all the emotion and the feeling to it,
Yeah.
that wears me out. I'm like, I can't, I don't know I have no place to argue from. Like, you know, I'm like
Yeah.
trying to fly here. I can't fly. I need to be grounded in my logic and you don't understand me. So let's just not do this.
That's awesome. All right, we'll do one more subject and then
Yeah,
we've
we've gotten over an hour here.
Are we? Okay, I don't know. I just talk. And like I told you before we even started, we could probably do this for 5 hours. And
Probably. Except I have to pee and I'm hungry.
I already ate and I already peed.
I did too, but I'm older, have a bladder the size of. No, I'm just kidding.
And SE demons welcome here, so no problem.
Well, this will be broadcast. We're gonna get rained for it.
That's whatever. Haters gonna hate. One thing I try to explain to people, because when you don't have FI, I mean, and you've mentioned this before, and forgive me for my memory and things like this, but you mentioned that we're trying to help people, but they try to explain us feelings that we don't understand.
It's a language we don't have.
Yeah, it's a language we don't have, and so it's just like you want to help, but it's just like, what do I do? You know, and I hate the quote Big Bang Theory here, but it's like the first episode where they met Penny, and Sheldon's supposed to be an INTP. I know people get upset about that, but and Penny starts crying. She's like, and he looks at Leonard and he goes, "What's happening?" You know. And I feel like that all the time. You know, I'm just like, wait, what is she upset about? And there's like something stupid to us.
Yeah.
Just like, why is that a big deal?
Yeah.
But
I feel like a referee most of the time. I can be like, okay, especially if there's other people doing the same thing. I'm like, okay, you're upset because they said this, and you're upset because they said that. So just now you understand. So don't be upset. But that's not how it works.
all right. Well, we're going to have to do this again, but you just triggered something like that. And I definitely want to do a conversation with you and Jean over education and things like that. I think there seems to be people interested in that because people respect teachers for some reason, but I think most teachers are crazy.
They put us in charge of their kids. Therefore, we have a reputation of being in charge, right? No, I've met teachers. They are. Happy hour was invented for teachers. That should tell you something right there.
Interesting. Okay, I did not know that, but I mean,
I mean, I didn't mean that literally. I didn't mean it literally. I just meant every happy hour I ever went to was just a gaggle of teachers that just were blowing their minds out of school here.
Yeah, and so like what I was talking about is we'll talk about any hero and multitasking.
Oh, good one.
Okay, and because you just trigger something like that, because I'm talking about philosophy meetups and like I sit and listen for the longest time. And I said, this person says this person says this person. And like, I'm connecting this web,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'm like, you did that, you said this. So I'm going to connect this all together. And this is my conclusion.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone's like,
yeah, that's
they're
not
like,
what we
how did you
said.
just
Like,
do that? How'd you remember all that kind of stuff?
yeah.
Who was I talking to about that the other day? And I'm like, no, I'm remembering what we're having a conversation in real. Oh, I was talking to Abby.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was already rehashing, like I'm rehashing what we've already said
Yeah.
in my mind in real time still, and thinking about the future at the same time. And it's just like, it's like, I don't do every one thing at once, And so it's just like, I was telling her, she's like, oh, wow, that's amazing. I was just like, I guess.
Actually,
But
one thing at once is very draining. It's
yeah,
very draining. Anyway, so I don't want to get on another topic, but yeah, we should talk
yeah.
about that.
But this has been a really cool conversation. I hope this
I
is
agree.
interesting other people to have, conversations. I wanted to have I mean, we both agree, life as an ENTP, I'm not going to say it's hard, because we definitely have some advantage over other people, but it is difficult not understanding humanity in a lot of different ways.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have no interest in the three sides of your mind,
Mm-hmm.
There's no interest there. We have an affiliative side somewhat,
Mm-hmm.
but interest
Simple
and why
pregnant.
this is important, what's in it for you, what is everyone doing? And you're just like, I don't know. I just do things. And so people always like, oh, well, you were doing this, you were interested in this. I'm like, no, opportunity happens to me and life happens.
Yeah.
And most things don't make any sense. And so there's issues with being a female ENTP, as an SI user male, as an ENTP, definitely issues, especially being compared to my older brothers who are SPs and more in a very physical blue collar household. There definitely was, like, I failed people, but they don't talk to me anyway, so it don't really matter. So anyways, so I hope this was entertaining anybody. Thank you for being on. And
Absolutely.
we're going to stop this here.
Okay.